anti-fascism, anti-racism, all these great sounding ideas. All of these groups are building towards recruiting and normalizing violent extremism on the left. My name is Andy Ngo, and this is my story. I grew up in Portland, Oregon with my parents and one sister. My sister and I were the first generation born in the West. My parents immigrated to the United States in 1979 as asylum seekers. They were refugees from Vietnam. Around 2014, I applied into a graduate program at Portland State University, and I studied political science with a focus on Middle East and North African politics. I started paying attention a lot more to news. It was during this time at Portland State that I saw an ad in the student paper seeking applicants to be contributors to the student newspaper. At that point, I didn't have any confidence in my writing or reporting skills. I didn't have any experience in that. I'd never done it before. When I interviewed for the position with the editor-in-chief, she offered me an editor position. So she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. November of 2016, after the election results were known, Portland had 3 days of violent rioting by far-left extremists. And I was assigned to go out and get some videos and write a story about the protests that were happening pretty close to Portland State. And so for the next 2.5 years, I wrote about the violence in Portland. In the beginning, nobody knew who I was, and so they left me alone. I would say around 2018, what changed was after some of my writing pieces went viral, I started being targeted. And at that time, I was naive. I thought, okay, people are just going to show up and call me names and insults and try to block me with their hands and signs. I'll be fine. I underestimated their extremism. So on the 29th of June, 2019, Rose City Antifa had announced a direct action to counter a Proud Boys event. I followed with a GoPro and my mobile phone, and some of them began to throw some of their drinks at me earlier in the day, threw it in my face, threw it in my hair, threw it at my equipment. Antifa claimed to protect and defend people of color from racists. I did not think that they would eventually attack a journalist of color. I was in front of the Justice Center in downtown, and suddenly I felt something hit me really hard in the back of the head. There were people dressed in black who just surrounded me, and I just felt punches to the head and face in every direction. I tried really hard to hold on to my GoPro equipment. Unfortunately, in the beating, somebody wrangled it out of my hands and took off. I remember thinking at that point, police are going to come in and help me, but there was no police. They didn't come. I was hospitalized and diagnosed with a brain bleed. I was very lucky to survive that. I went through many, many months of pretty intensive forms of therapies, physical, occupational, speech. One of the lingering effects of the subarachnoid brain hemorrhage is I have memory issues. It's been pretty devastating to suffer that as a journalist. I'm lucky that I was able to regain my balance, and some of my speech and cognitive issues have minimized. I'm lucky that I survived it. The public is presented with so much propaganda from the far left, and it works, unfortunately. Portland is an example of what happens when political violence from the left is just normalized, and that people tolerate it or accept it because they think it's being done for a noble cause. People are brainwashed into thinking that these movements and groups are actually doing what they purport to do. Black Lives Matter, anti-fascism, anti-racism, all these great sounding ideas that are used to conceal a really violent, radical agenda for revolution. The enemy they really view is the United States and any of its allies. Take Israel, for example. A lot of the hatred that is existing against the state of Israel is because they view Israel as a white supremacist colonial project of America. They would like to see Israel destroyed because they would like to see America destroyed as well. Often it does look like the same people and groups are involved in things like Black Lives Matter or Antifa or anti-Israel demonstrations. And in fact, a lot of the same people are involved. These are people involved in militant left-wing networks who are very good at organizing and activating when needed. All of these groups are building towards radicalizing, recruiting, in normalizing violent extremism on the left. There was a time that I wanted to be in the liberal establishment for media and maybe be a small agent for change. And then I learned the hard way very early on that if you challenge narratives, you will not be welcomed in that space. And in fact, as a journalist, you'll be persona non grata. It was conservative media that gave me a voice. Fox News invited me on the opinion section of the Wall Street Journal, and I was able to write for news in the New York Post. These are all center-right or conservative publications. They're willing to give voice to people who are able to report or provide commentary on things that go against the grain. One thing that I think people can do is to become better informed, know which media sources to trust. Each individual has to go on that journey for him or herself and learn how to find the truth. I find it really disturbing that the generation of Asian Americans like me, those who are educated completely in America and go on to good universities, are then also indoctrinated with critical race theory and DEI, and then are espousing support for radical ideas that their parents escaped from. Asian American parents work so hard to instill values of merit without realizing that in a lot of public education, students are indoctrinated into not just hating their country, but having sympathy for revolutionary left-wing ideologies. Much of my reporting is in defense of America because I see so many violent extremists trying to attack the legitimacy of the state. America has had such a long period of prosperity and stability that people do take it for granted. They think that revolutions and instability are things that happen far away and elsewhere in other countries and that it couldn't happen here. And I think that's naive. If radical revolutionary ideologues can brainwash systematically generations, over time, they can win without firing a single shot. Thank you for watching this video. To keep videos like this free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation to PragerU.